right, next we're going to be doing Unit 5, Lab 2, Prepare the Rig. In this lab, you'll open the original character rig and get it ready for animating. Goals for the lesson. Arrange the Blender workspace to include the 3D view window, the timeline window, and the action editor window. Hide the object and armature layers that you won't need for the walk cycle. Let's get set up. So first you can go ahead and I'm gonna File, Open, going back into my 3D animation folder, wherever you have yours, and remember our resources folder. Click on resources. You want the character rig. Perfect. And we're going to save it. File, Save As, and make sure that you put this in the correct folder. So I'm going to go back and find my 3D animation folder, and remember we made the Unit 5 folder. So this is going to be called your first and last name. First and last name, and then they want us to call it Walk Cycle, and this is version 1. Walk Cycle V1. So don't forget to put your first and last name at the very beginning. Thank you so much. Good job. And then you hit enter twice, or save as Blender. The Join Areas command. As you work in Blender, depending on what you're doing, you may have extra windows that you're not using. The Join Areas command simplifies the Blender workspace by removing windows you don't need. Join Areas makes one window take over the space that another window is using. The window with the arrow pointing into it is the one that will disappear. The Split Areas command is a way to take space out of a window to make room for a new window. When you do this, the new window disappears. The new window that appears will be identical to the one you used the command on. You can then change the new Windows type to what you want it to be. Okay, so essentially what you can do is, if you have your cursor, you know how I was saying you can just kind of drag it like that, or you can use that Control plus the up button to maximize this. They're also saying that if you want to, you can right click when you have your cursor right there and go Join Area. And remember, it says that wherever the arrow is pointing, that's the one that's going to disappear. So we don't want our rig to disappear. We want this little box of instructions or notes from the author to disappear. So once you have the arrow, you just move your cursor back and forth. When you have the arrow pointed towards what you want to disappear, you just left click and voila, it's gone. Okay, so you'll notice that we don't have a timeline, so we need to create another viewing area down here, so another editing area. To do that, we're just going to go to this little corner box, right? And if you were just to left click on that and drag it up, nope, wrong. That's not exactly what I meant to do. What happened is I accidentally made that disappear. So I'm going down to this little left arrow because when I did my right arrow, it actually, whatever turns dark gray is going to disappear. So grab the one that's on the bottom instead, and then you'll notice that you can drag it up. Okay, so now it looks like I need my materials or my properties on the bottom, and then I need to grab another one and drag it up. And this one right here, I want to change to timeline. So let's see. So if I take this little guy right here, oh look, I can actually drag down and get another one, and I don't want that one. So let's see, how do I get rid of that one? I think I can grab this bottom. Nope. Takes a little practice. I think that's gonna make, I'm just gonna, yeah, that's not what I wanted. You can just change that back to 3D view. If you accidentally make that disappear, just change it to 3D view. So what do I have here? I have my 3D view window. You can see that here. This one's my 3D view. And this one right here is my timeline. And that's this little guy right here. And then down at the very bottom, I have my properties box. And I'm just trying to, the top one doesn't slide up. It's the bottom one. You have to drag that one up. Yeah, I don't think I really need that big of a timeline, but yeah, I think that's part of the reason, why it's good to have, I like to put my properties over here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that and slide it over. Did you see what I did? I just grabbed the corner and slid it over. Okay, I have too many now, so I'm going to grab this one and slide it back over, and that dark gray one disappeared. I can change this to properties. I like it when my properties are over on the right, and I'm going to grab this bottom one and drag it down, and that's going to delete that one. So I have, for me, I personally like to have my timeline at the bottom, and I like to have my properties over on the right, so that I can still see my little guy. And remember, you have your pluses here, so you have your tool shelf and you have your properties panel. You can see everything at one time. This is how I prefer it. You don't have to have it like that. But if you're not sure about what I was just showing you, go back to the table of contents into that orientation folder. And remember, in the orientation folder, I have a video in there that says Understanding the Blender Interface. If you've not watched that video yet, that's going to explain to you how to change those windows. So please go back and watch that if you have not had an opportunity to do so. Let's see here. Where are we? Ah, yes, object layers are layers that are used to contain 3D objects in a project. This is the same type of layer you used in earlier projects. The generic rig character is a complicated rig with many different controller bones on different layers. For the walk cycle project, you'll only need to use the model and the controller bones on layers 1 and 2. On the next page, you'll hide the object layers you won't need. This way, there won't be as many extra controller bones showing. Okay, so apparently down here in our 3D view menu, this is your visible layers. Okay, so I believe this says layers 0, and let's go over 1. This says layer 1. But they said to click on that first one. It's called, and look, when you click on that layer, you'll notice that there aren't any bone controllers there. Okay, and then it says they want you to hold down Shift and click on that layer. And now you can see your bones and such. And that's what they wanted you to do. You could hit the 1 so that you're in front view. And that's what it's going to look like. They also want you to go to your timeline and make your current frame 1. And then they want you to make your end frame 21. So your current frame is 1, your end frame is 21. Skeleton layers. You just used layer buttons to hide extra object layers. You'll also hide armature layers to hide more of the extra controller bones. An armature is a chain of connected bones, so a skeleton layer is a special type of layer that's used just for bones. Soon you'll use the skeleton layer buttons to hide the armature layers that have bones that you don't need. This will make your workspace less cluttered. But first, a quiz. A skeleton layer is used just for materials, textures, bones, or objects. The correct answer is C, bones. Okay, so we are going to go to our properties panel. Your properties panel might be on the right if you moved it over there, or it might be on the bottom. And you're going to click on the data, object data. I thought that this was a rigs button. So I'm just going to click on the one that looks like a rig. It says it's called object data. All right. And just like we did in that last one, you're going to click on that first layer. Okay. And when you did that, you'll notice that those other layers became kind of they weren't selected anymore. And you're going to hold down Shift to click on the next one. And then this is what your little guy should look like. So basically, you've just got these two that are dark. Do you want me to repeat that? I'm going to hit Control Z a couple times. Okay, this is where it was. I'm in the properties. You can make a properties viewer anywhere you want. That's just this one right here, right? And then I'm going to click on this little rig guy. And then when I did, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these that are kind of dark. Just click on the first one, and that makes it so that the rest of them are lit. Hold down Shift and click on the next one. And that's all we want to have selected, okay? Just those two. The action editor helps you keep track of which bones have keyframes on which frames. It lists all the bones that are being used in an animation with yellow dots on the timeline for each keyframe. The action editor does not show you what type of keyframes they are, nor show you what changes between the keyframes, as the F-curve editor does. You'll open the action editor window on the next page. Okay, so the action editor, basically they were saying that we can just go ahead and pull it up in place of the timeline. I think another option might possibly be to just grab that and drag it up and create another window, another editor, and click on that and go to your dope sheet. Okay, so you can there we go. So now I kind of like doing this because they were saying, you know, to get rid of our properties box. But if we have the properties box over on the right, we don't have to get rid of it. We don't have to replace it. We can still keep that there. And we can still have the dope sheet, and we can still have our timeline and the 3D viewing window. So I kind of like that setup. So on this dope sheet, they want us to click and change that to action editor. Okay, so you're changing the dope sheet to action editor. All right, and then from there, you're just going to click in this box. We're going to name it walk cycle. Okay, just like the name of our file. So walk. And you could do walk underscore cycle. I think that's appropriate naming convention to put underscores between words. Hit walk cycle and then hit enter. And that is the name of it now. Good job. Now to scroll in and out of your action editor is just like when you scroll on anything. So it can zoom you in and out. Or if you hold down the middle mouse button, it will allow you to click and drag and slide that from side to side. So that's how you can move around on the action editor. Surprisingly, that one was really short. We're ready to save already. So File, Save As, and just change that to version 2. .blend, hit enter twice, and let's just check our steps here. Make sure you've hidden the text editor window and added the timeline window if either of these things still needs to be done. Make sure only the first two object layers are visible. We did that here. And then make sure only the first two armature layers. Oh, these are probably the armature layers. If not, repeat the video. Make sure your action editor window is open. All right, so that looks pretty good. I think that completes In this lab, you arrange the Blender workspace to include the 3D view window, the timeline window, and the action editor window. You hid the object and armature layers that you won't need for the walk cycle. Good job.